Finally, a word to the wise. If you ever run into a fella named John Brzenk, whatever you do, don't arm wrestle with this guy.
Talk about phenomenal from John Brzenk there. The greatest arm wrestler of all time doing greatest arm wrestler things. That was a phenomenal. That's the only word I can think of. Phenomenal. When I look at the match there against Corey West, the comeback in that 5th round, it's just something different about that man's ability to arm wrestle. He's been doing it for so long, and if you don't know who John is, I actually think John Brzenk is the most dominant sports person in history. I'll go on record as saying that. I really do believe he is. And look, correct me if I'm wrong, but John statistically is so ridiculously dominant. He's been doing it for going on 40 years now since he's been at the top of the world. At 57 years of age, John's one of a kind. He has won over 550 odd titles. He beat the Levan of the day, who was Richard Lubke's, back in 1987 at the original Over the Top tournament, and was crowned the overall world rank number 1. He continued to do that for decades, going back and forth with the best guy on the planet, always. And John would only be 90 kilos, 95 kilos. The highest we ever saw him was sort of 105 kilos. John Brzenk was something incredibly different. Now, as John moved forward in his career, we saw different evolutions of John. The young John was the John that actually, when I've asked John personally which version of him was the most dangerous, he would express the young version, the fast version, a version that had not only strength but a venomous start from the go as well. He would describe that version as the most dangerous. Now, as we've gone through the years, you'll see John start to slow down in that speed. You can probably say you can debate, I guess. Is he stronger in his older age? Maybe. But where the peak was, we don't know. But all we do know is that John was there forever as a absolute monster. Now, his retirement, he almost went through 2 retirements. John near retired just prior to the Pulling John movie. It was actually the movie Pulling John that brought him back to some degree of motivation. It was that encouragement to go and take on Alexei Vovoda at the Zloty Tour. That was a big difference. But you'll see, if you watch Pulling John, you'll see footage of John talking and thinking, with Kevin Bongard, training partner Kevin Bongard, you'll see John talking about retiring, saying, look, I think I've done.
We've both been talking about retiring for about the last 2 years. But, you know, it's more mental retiring because we know we're old, we know we're a little beat up. How do you draw that line of retiring when you're on top compared to retiring when you're starting to take 3rd and 4th?
But he persists. He goes on and does so many more amazing things. And then in 2015, he takes on Devin Larratt at the WAL and Marcio Barboza in the final. Beats those two, takes the money, and then retires. He then retires. And, you know, John, from 2015 through 2020, we didn't see John at all. I was actually so blessed. Personally, I was so blessed that I got to meet John during that period of time. I was in Arizona helping Travis Bagent promote an event, and I was given the privilege. That's another story, but I was given the privilege of staying at John Brzenk's home, and he was retired. I remember he said to me, look, I've said everything there is to say to the arm wrestling world. I feel like everyone's heard it all before. I'm done. I'm not strong anymore by his standards. I'm done.
Ultimately, you get to the point where you're in my shoes, and you get to the point where you have to weigh the difference between enjoying it still and participating versus being away from it and hurting because of it. And that was the reason that I I ultimately gave it up.
But then, as time went by, John started to, I guess, as the sport evolved and as the economy of the sport evolved, John started to be given more opportunity, and we started to see him pop back in. And it was John being lured by Igor Mazarenko's PAL and the top 8 at the under 95 kilos event, which never actually ended up happening. Through, of course, COVID and all the travel restrictions, cancelling everything, it never ended up happening. And John was kind of left like, wow, well, where do we go? But John was back, and then nothing happened. So John had been training, and then all of a sudden, like we saw John develop the happiness around arm wrestling again. And that is probably the best thing of the lot. John developing the happiness around arm wrestling and seeing John compete once again, getting back into his competitive spirit, traveling, super matches. So now with John officially back, we see him take on Chance Shaw, a young up-and-coming stud of a top roller. John goes into that match unsure if he can win it, but he does. He then faces the middleweight contender, some say the best middleweight in USA, Paul Lynn. Paul Lynn puts up an enormous fight. John, once again, he wins. He does enough, and he wins in amazing shape and form. He then faces a Russian pro, someone who's finished on the podium at the World Championships and has multiple times been at the top of Russian arm wrestling, Dmitry Kachan. Once again, red line match. You think, where is the limit to this man? This old man. 57-year-old John Brzenk. But he beats Dmitry Kachan. He then steps into the realm of craziness. He takes on the man that some people believe, that most people believed at the time of the match, was the number 1 ranked arm wrestler in the world at 95 kilos. Hadzimir Zaloyev of Russia. This guy, he's a legend in his own right. He's in the debate for the pound-for-pound best arm wrestler of all time. What does John do to him? He destroys him. John destroys him. Like nothing was there. 57-year-old John. Now after this, the one blip on the radar for John, in terms of keeping the perfect record for the comeback, was he faced Devon Larratt. Devon Larratt wanted the legacy match. John and Devon had been back and forth throughout the decades. John dominating early, Devon getting the victory at Arm Wars in 2008, which took for him at the time, in many people's opinion, the number 1 rank in the world. And then John, of course, defeated him, as we know, in 2015. But now here we are in 2021. John faces Devon Larratt. And Devon Larratt is too good on this occasion. Devon Larratt's big, though. And he's off on his own missions, chasing monsters. But after Devon, John gets back to it. He doesn't fear anyone. He just keeps on taking matches. He faces Ukrainian-born American citizen Pavlo Debenyanev. A guy that is just ridiculous. A guy that is ranked, number 5 in the overalls, super heavyweights for USA. John beats him convincingly. He then travels to East versus West and faces Zurav Tavbaridze, a man that just had an absolute war with a legend of the sport, Ron Barth. And John again puts on a display. Zurav gets close. Technicalities, fouls are called, and craziness ensues. But John, once again, just seemingly does the impossible. Beats the younger man who has enormous arms. John's hand just gets him through it. And now we have him scheduled to face Kritigalion Garboyev at East vs. West. The winner of that match goes into a title match to become the number 1 ranked arm wrestler in the world at 110 kilos. And then, of course, there's the man he's just beaten, Corey West. 200 kilos of human being. Corey West is a genuine monster. I can't quite explain how powerful this man is. Corey West is so big. He is the heaviest person currently in the world of professional arm wrestling. He absolutely destroyed Krasimir Kostadinov. He's a Krasimir, a multiple world champion, a Bulgarian legend of arm wrestling. Corey made it look like he didn't exist. Corey took the first round when Corey pulled Todd Hutchins, flattened him. Crazy. Corey's power's big. Corey, in the early rounds against 6'8" giant Alex Kadecha, flattened him. These are people, the names that I've just mentioned are all phenomenal arm wrestlers. None of them could stand in front of Corey in that fresh versus fresh situation. Corey dominates. The 200 kilo giant has just faced John Brzenk. John Brzenk, at 57 years old, you think surely he can't. He's gonna run, isn't he? He's not gonna take him on head. What does John do? He comes straight at the giant. He comes straight at Corey West. No hesitation, bangs it into a hook. John Brzenk not only goes into the hook, but wins the opening round. You think, oh my goodness, what on earth? Corey fights back. Corey, the monster that he is, just overpowers John, rips him to the side, gets it into what looks like the unassailable lead. Corey now up 2-1 and coming home strong. John finds a way. John literally, by the skin of his teeth, finds a way back into the match. And it's 2-2 in the decider. One of the most epic comeback arm wrestles you'll ever see. And John wins. John defeats the 200 kilo giant. This genuinely, like I said, phenomenal. It blows my mind. John's dominance in the sport, what he can achieve is just out of this world. And what this means now, there's debates that rage. Is John in the top 10 overall? It's coming. Is John the number 1 rank in the world for his weight? It's right around the corner. But what it actually means right now for his next match is monster Michael Todd, the man who is the coach of the giant Corey West, the man that is hungry to end a particular legacy. Michael Todd and John Brzenk will face next. The last time these guys faced was UAL 8. I can't remember the year, maybe 2013. UAL 8. It's where John and the famous "Where you going, buddy?" line came from as he flop pressed through Michael Todd's King's move. Now, what a match this is going to be. This here, a juicy story to such a degree. The arm wrestling world will talk about this one in so much depth as it gets closer. But Michael Todd, another all-time great of the sport, he's been on his losing streak. He's just had his victory against Todd Hutchins, and now he finds himself with a match against the resurgent GOAT. Oh my goodness. I'm literally getting shivers down the back of my neck as I'm talking about this for a couple of reasons. For Michael, this is actually really big because Michael's never beaten John. Correct me if I'm wrong, Michael. I'm pretty certain of that. I'm pretty certain Michael's never pinned John. Early days, John was incredibly dominant over Michael as Michael was crafting his conditioning and strength. And at that UAL 8 tournament, Michael was the heavy favorite to win. The draw did not help Michael that day. Everybody threw everything they had at Michael. Jerry Carteret was there, went into a screaming war with Michael, as we know he can. But John went cleanly through, boom, 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 boom. Got to the final, John wins. And then Michael was left without that opportunity. Michael knew within his soul, he thought at the time, if I had just a super match with John, I'd be able to show the world that I'm good enough to be able to pin John. And it never happened. So for Michael, this is like, oh my goodness, you have a massive opportunity to have that super match that he's been waiting for since 2013. And for John, all of this is just like, it just cements him as the GOAT. So much more. And it reminds us why he really is king of this sport. He fears no one. Since John came out of retirement, he has had near, 10 super matches or something crazy like that. Every other elite guy out there in the world has 1 to 2, maybe 3 super matches in a year. John just comes out, fearlessly takes on everyone, has red line matches, but they just keep on getting better and better and better. People are now debating him as being in the top 10 overall ranks in the world once again. Like, the man is on a tear, and it's crazy. Now he faces Michael Todd, who you could so easily say is a pressure match for John. But John just fears no opponent. He just doesn't. It's crazy how much he just backs himself. So John, ladies and gentlemen, the GOAT of our sport, he certainly is king. Where he goes beyond this year, where he goes beyond these next few matches, man, at 57 years old, he just keeps on crushing it. And I'm sure, to be honest, that he will keep on crushing it for as long as he wants to. If arm wrestling is still fun for him, which I hope it is, the man deserves $1 million plus more every year from arm wrestling. If he was as dominant as he is in arm wrestling in any other sport, man. So as the sport grows, I hope that comes to him. Anyway, man, John is the king. Let me know in the comments what you think about it all. It's crazy. John v. Michael coming up. Awesome stuff.
Where you going, buddy?